And if you look in the background, you can see something at the end of the hallway. Alright, so in this episode, you guys asked for more stories, so this is going to be a storytelling episode. So, we're going to start with the paranormal stuff, since some of you have asked about the paranormal stuff that has happened on the property, and just in our lives in general. So, that's what we're going to touch base on. But real quick, before we start the episode, don't forget, we do giveaways every single episode when we can. So, in this episode, we're also doing a giveaway. For a chance to win a night vision binocular, simply like the video, comment on the video, and be a subscriber. If you want to support our channel, simply hit the share button or hit the super thanks button. We sure appreciate everybody's help with hitting that share button and watching the videos all the way through. It sure does help us out a lot. But thanks in advance, guys. I'll talk to you guys in the comments. Sitting out here in the back porch like I do a lot. Sometimes I'm playing on my phone, sometimes I'm just sitting here listening. I used to be out here a lot more often because I used to smoke, and I don't smoke inside. I'd be out here smoking. You know, I'd come out here, smoke a cigarette, and be out here for hours just sitting here listening. I don't smoke anymore, so I don't come out here as often as I used to. Got my thermal. Sometimes you'll be sitting here and just hear wood knock or vocalization. Hear stuff moving through the woods. That's almost always. Here comes the cat. This cat is a compulsive biter. Good cat. She's a good mouser. She just don't like to be pet. So, a lot of you guys like to hear stories that me and my family have been through. So I guess when I'm just sitting here doing nothing, I will pick a category and I will talk about it. And I'm going to start with paranormal stuff. I can tell you from first-hand experience, the more you talk about it, the more it happens. And some of you might be able to relate to that. Be with some friends and family and talk about paranormal stuff, and lo and behold, paranormal stuff starts happening. Paranormal researchers think they've got a pretty good understanding on how it works, but the truth is there's more going on than they will ever know. What you guys are seeing is me on my back porch, elevated roughly 8 foot to 9 foot, I'm not sure, maybe 10 foot off the ground, just a few feet from my back door with the handrail. I'm on the handrail, and I still feel like I'm too far away from my door. Yeah. So tonight I'm going to talk about some paranormal stuff. And I'm going to start with my mom and dad. Well, not the reason, but a very persuasive reason of why we moved away from Ironton, Missouri to where we live now. See, we moved from Ironton to Fredericktown. And we lived in a house just over the hill right here. And I mean within 1/8 of a mile. This house come up on the market and Mom and Dad got their hands on it. Dad is retired. Mom is disabled. Mom and Dad sold me their house. Mom and Dad was going to travel in an RV around the country, just enjoying retirement. Things haven't worked out. Dad got cancer, amongst a bunch of other things. So Mom and Dad are going to build a tiny house here. They can build them a little house. They won't have any bills. It'll help them out. But anyway, when we lived in Ironton, we lived on a house on the hill behind a grocery store. We lived in town, and that house was extremely haunted. Extremely haunted. Now, we don't know how true this is, but supposedly there was a house there that a little boy playing with matches burnt his entire family alive in their house. And the entire family died. I know that sounds like the average ghost story. That's how they always start, right? So in this house, in the basement, and I'm sure the people that own it now, this house had this is crazy. The house we lived in Ironton is literally identical to the house that I live in today. There's a couple things that are different, but it is virtually the same house. Like, I'm thinking the same people that built that house built this house. In that basement, there was concrete, and there was these little kid footprints in the concrete that went out in the wet concrete and just ended. So, and those are, I guarantee you, they're still there. There was some weird stuff that really, really happened that would shake you to your core. And in my last episode, I talked about, my paranormal past, with ghost hunting and how much it really doesn't scare me anymore. It can get the jump on me and, spook me a little bit. But as soon as I know it's paranormal, it's like, oh, So this house, it had a hallway just like mine, and Mom and Dad would sleep in their room, and they'd leave their bedroom door open so they could, hear us kids sleeping. And I don't know how many of you guys have watched the Star Wars movies and are familiar with the little Jawas that sell the droids. They're them little people with the hoods and the little red eyes. They look like little monks, only really short and creepy looking. The little Jawas from Star Wars. One night, Mom and Dad were laying in their bed, and Dad couldn't sleep, and he was just kind of looking at the hallway, and he sees, I think he said 6 of these things carrying bags and boxes. They were walking down the hallway, and he watched them, and he thought, did I just see that? And my dad didn't know my mom was awake. My dad's sitting there like, holy crap. And my mom goes, did you see that? My dad's like, oh God, I did see it. And they always came out of that back room where my brother Alex slept, in his room. I have an older brother named Alex. There's a lot of stuff that happened, so I'm just going to start rambling off. One night when I was a baby, like, mom and dad had my crib in their room, and my mom got woke up by a face. She said she woke up and there was a face, like, real close to her face, looking at her. And she said it's this ghost. She said it was a woman, and she had a real large nose. She remembers that feature, that this woman had a large nose. And this woman said, check the baby. And, you know, my mom jumps up, and she looks over at my crib. And my mom had her robe hanging on the corner of the crib. And you know the little ropes that, you know, you tie your robe with. And they have the little loops on the edge that you run that tie rope through. She said somehow I got on the outside of my crib, and I was hanging from my neck from that rope on the robe. And this whoever that lady was, woke my mom up to tell my mom that I was dying, and that's what saved my life. That's kind of, you know, kind of amazing in a way. Who was it? You know, like, who was that? And there's some scary stuff too. Like, that's probably one of, I mean, there's a couple funny ones in here too. Like, for example, scary wise, my older brother was like 6 years old at the time, and mom and dad said he would randomly wake up in the middle of the night screaming, come running in the room, the house is on fire, the house is on fire, I killed us all, just freaking out, just going berserk, freaking out. And my mom and dad would try to, like, snap him out of this nightmare he would be having, and he'd just be screaming, I killed us, I'm the devil, just screaming, freaking out. And he would, like, try to push mom out of the room and, like, try to get her to jump out the window. The house is on fire, I killed us all, it's all my fault. And they'd snap him out of it. And the last time he did that, I mean, this would happen just randomly, just out of the blue. They said one night the same thing happened, and he was screaming, I'm the devil, and he would hold his head, I got horns on my head, screaming, freaking out. And dad took him in there in the bathroom in front of the mirror, you're fine, there's no horns on you, and he's screaming. They'd splash water in his face to get him to quit. That would randomly happen. Scary stuff like that. And funny wise, I mean, we always laugh about it. But one night, all the grown-ups were out. They went out to do something. And Grandma babysitted all of us. And we all slept in the living room, so Grandma could keep an eye on all of us. And she was sitting on the couch. She said all the TVs were off, and it was dark in the house. And she said she heard the basement door open, and she heard it slowly shut, and she heard someone say, "It's okay now, they're all asleep." And my grandma heard that, and she jumped up and she said, "Like hell I am." And my mom and dad got home. My grandma was standing there at the door waiting on them to get home with their shoes in her hand. She said, "This house is haunted. We need to get it blessed." They had a piano that would make noises in the night. There was a lot of weird stuff that happened at that house. I remember there's this old rock house up there on the hill behind the house that all of us kids used to go up there and play. I mean, the whole neighborhood kids, there'd be 10, 15 of us up there playing. And me and Shelby were the two littlest of the bunch. I do remember us being the smallest, other than my cousins, that were the same age as us. Sometimes that they'd be up there. Oh, there was one day I remember being up there in that house, and I thought that this was just some imaginary memory I had when I was a kid. So I'd never really talked about it, but I remember it very well. And I just thought it was imagination when I was a kid. You know how memories do that when you get older. Well, there was a night that me and Shelby were sitting, and we were talking, about this kind of stuff. And he said, "I'm going to tell you guys something I ain't never told nobody." And he said, "I seen the Grim Reaper," and I knew exactly what he was talking about. And I told the story for him. And he thought all these years he was the only kid that seen it. But what happened was, we were all up there in that rock house, and it somewhat had a roof on it. It somewhat had a floor in it. And it had these old wooden rafters in the top. And all the big kids were like climbing up there, and they were, pretty much doing their best to stay away from the little kids. And, me and Shelby were doing our best to get up there. And we finally get up on the top of those rafters where all the other kids were at. And I remember seeing this ghost, and I mean this when I say this. It was the color of Casper. It was like a oily, smoky, transparent blue color. And I remember seeing shoulders, a hood, and a dark area where there would normally be a face. I remember seeing that, and it always reminded me of that live action movie of Casper the Friendly Ghost. I know it sounds crazy. A whole lot of people say, "Well, I've seen it and it was like this." No, it was cartoonish. That's why I was always like, it's a weird childhood memory of mine. That's why I was always like, I was a kid, But Shelby told me the same thing. He's seen it too. And it was up in the rafters. Like, it's like floated up. Like, we're up in the rafters, and this thing like floated up and was like head level with us. That's why I only seen its shoulders, because every kid that was up there seen it, and they all jumped down. They were all screaming and running. Me and Shelby jumped down. I remember I had a Looney Tunes Huffy, and I was, for whatever reason, not on the bike pedaling it. I was running beside my bike, pushing it. Like, I wasn't going to leave my bike. I remember that. Because when I got to the bottom of the hill, I like pushed my bike. Like I was, like that bike meant more than my life. I mean, I was a bicycle kid. My thing was a motorcycle everywhere I went. But that was just kind of a moment for me and Shelby, like, wow, that was real. And Shelby never talked about it because he thought, basically the same thing I thought, just a weird childhood memory. Mom said when I was a little kid that had an imaginary friend that I always played with. And I would always tell her that he was really dirty. Like he was all like black. Real dirty black. And we've all speculated that maybe that story about there being a house there at some point in time and a family burning up in that house. I mean, we speculate that maybe my imaginary friend was that kid that burned up in that house. Now, years later, Mom and Dad went to a yard sale at that house. And Mom and Dad got there to pay for the things they found in the yard sale. And Dad said, "You guys ever hear or see anything weird in this house?" And Dad said, that husband and wife looked at each other like, they didn't speculate, but they looked at each other like, how the hell does this guy know? I'm sure there's a bunch of other stories that I'm not. Those are just the ones that I can remember. It seems like every house we've lived in has been haunted. I grew up and found Brittany, and we've been together for a very long time. You know, we lived in town, you know, trying to get her. We lived in Florida first, and things didn't work out, but like to starve to death down there. And things got tough, so we moved back home, which Mom and Dad had bought this house by then. We stayed here for a year or two before we moved into town. This is before we had the kids. I mean, when we moved back to Fredericktown, that's when Brittany, we lived here at this house with Mom and Dad. That's when Brittany had her first sighting / encounter. We had a little dog that he was a puppy and had a broken leg, and she took him out in the front yard to let him go to the bathroom. And there used to be gravel going around the edge of the house on this side of the house. And we didn't have that lamp post in the front then, so it was kind of, there's a light over there that lights up that side of the yard, kind of, depending on what bulb you got. That's why that lamp post is there now. But anyway, she took the dog out there, and she didn't believe me. She didn't believe anybody. She didn't believe Bigfoot's nonsense. Paranormal stuff's nonsense. It's all stupid nonsense. And then she's out there in the front yard with the dog while he's taking a leak, and she hears the shuffle of gravel, and she turns around thinking that I was trying to sneak up on her, just try to scare her, and she sees this black, just half of a person just kind of standing on the corner of the house looking at her, you know, like a full-blown creeper. And she said she sees half its head, half its shoulder, half its arm, half its leg, and it just, you know, back behind the house, like where she couldn't see it. And then she heard it walk away in the gravel. She grabbed that dog and come running inside, and I was sitting in here in the house, and she said, "Who was outside? Who was that? What was that?" I just seen, you know, freaking out. She seen one. She seen it. She just couldn't wrap her head around it, and I'm just sitting there like, told ya. I'm not so crazy now, am I? So, that happened. But anyway, we moved to town, and her mom and dad owned that house in town. It was a lot of things. Like, it was a doctor's office, and then it was a dentist office, and then it was a restaurant, and then it was a resale shop, and then it was our house. We had a sink in every closet in that house, and everything had 2 doors. We had a waiting room, a secretary room. It was like living in a dentist office. It really was. So, you know, later in life, when we got the kids, we had to disable all those sinks because, you know, kids. So So me and Brittany were home alone one day, and it was the first time we'd been alone in a long time. Like, we had the whole place to ourselves. No kids, no roommates, just at our own place, all to ourselves. And it was dark in the living room / waiting room, and we were standing right there on the the waiting room had like a handrail that went around. It was really weird. And we hear this growling, like deep growling from the corner of the room. It's pitch black in there. The only light in the house was from the street lights. And she looked at me and she said, "Was that your belly?" And I'm like, "No, that came from behind me." And it was the creepiest deep growl, but it came from like the floor, like in the corner of the floor. Like, you know how you can kind of hear where a sound comes from, not just the direction it came from, but height wise. Like, you can tell if a sound came from up or if it came from down. This was down low at the corner of that room where I guess there used to be a fireplace right there, and it was like, ooh. The basement, like upstairs, it had a bathroom, but it didn't have a shower. The shower was downstairs, but didn't have, a toilet. So the toilet was upstairs, and the shower was downstairs, but there was no toilet down there. So you had a toilet upstairs and a place to bathe downstairs. And the downstairs was partially finished. I think at one point in time there was a gym down there. Yeah, it was a gym. Yeah, add that to the list of things it used to be. Like, it used to be a resale shop. Like, one night I was sitting there in the living room waiting room, watching TV, and these two old ladies just walk in, and they're just looking around, and I'm sitting on the couch watching TV, and I'm just like, Can I help you? And they're like, "Oh my God, we're so sorry. We thought this was still Trendy's." And I'm just kind of like, huh? We literally had to put a closed sign on our door of our own house, just keep people from walking in. But downstairs on the left side, like, there was a divider wall in the middle, and on the left side was a washer and dryer where the shower was at. And on the right side, it was kind of like a little man cave deal. I'd go down there and play PlayStation, Xbox, game with my friends. And I was, I wasn't home alone. I was. I was home alone. I think her and the kids were at the store getting something, and I go down there and I kick on the PlayStation, and I was like, if I don't start a load of laundry while I'm down here, I'm probably going to get in trouble. So I go in there and I pull the dryer clothes out of the dryer, and I switch the load over, and I start a load in the washer, and I get the clothes drying. And when you open the door, I think, and you throw the clothes in there and you shut it, and then they had the old dial for the dryer. You hit the button. So I go in there and I'm like, okay, yeah, brownie points. And I sit down and I hear movement, and I'm thinking, damn, did she sneak up on me? And then I hear the dryer stop, and I hear the door open, and then I hear it shut, and I hear the dial crank, 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 and I don't hear it start. And I'm just kind of sitting there waiting for Brittany to come out of there. Like, I'm thinking, I just started that. I'm sitting there and I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting. Nobody comes out. And I'm thinking, what the hell is she doing? So I get up and I walk in there, and there's nobody there. Nobody's home. I'm like, oh, I'm home alone. So I had a ghost that would almost do laundry. And there would be other times I'd be down there and I'd be home alone, and I would hear little kids run down the hallway. Dun, 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 little feet. Dun, 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 dun. And I thought, oh yeah, they're, Brittany, the kids are home. And I get up and I go up there and nobody be home yet. But if lights would flicker, that basement door would like randomly jiggle. And we hung a cross on the door, and like it would jiggle so hard that the cross would bounce on the door because it was like hanging from a piece of string. There was some weird stuff that happened there. Like I've got a video. If I can find it, I'll play it right now. If you look, me, Brittany, and our kids are not home, but my sister-in-law, Sabrina, Shelby's wife, is home with her two kids, her two boys, with their boys, Bennett, Grayson, and they've got Sabrina's phone, and they're videoing, and they're little bitty in this video, and they're running around playing with the phone. And if you look in the background, you can see something at the end of the hallway. It's either short or it's on all four peeking around. And for many years we did not notice it until we did. And we're like, whoa, wait a minute, what the hell? Because we always watch the video like, look, the boys got the phone and they made a little video, how cute. And then we see that, it's like, the hell's that? So that's our little video of a little bit of paranormal maybe proof. I don't know. There was nobody else home, and we didn't have no dogs in the house. So that was just kind of like, what is that, you know? I remember there was one night I was at Shelby's house, you know, just over at Shelby's house over here. He don't live that far from here, maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes from here. And Mom was home alone because my dad worked nights for a little while. And this happened not only to Mom, but it happened a couple times to Mom, and it happened to Brittany once. My mom called one night. She was home alone, even though she had guns in her bedroom. She was using the bathroom because there's a bathroom in that bedroom. She's using the restroom, and she heard somebody have a coughing fit, like a real bad smoker's coughing fit. And she knew nobody should have been home. No, nobody's here other than me. There can't possibly be anybody else here. If somebody's in there, they broke in. So she locks herself in the bathroom. She had a hammer, a can of hairspray, and a lighter, and she was going to use it. And she called me and Shelby, and we rushed over here with our rifles and pistols, and we did a tactical sweep, if you want to call it that, of the house, and nobody was here. There's another time Mom heard that coughing. There was a night when me and Brittany lived here that she was out here on the back porch because she used to smoke cigarettes too, and she was smoking, and she heard someone down here in the carport have a coughing fit like that, and she thought it was me, and she smoked a cigarette and put it out and come back in. I was sitting here at the table eating a bowl of chili. She said, "Were you just downstairs?" I'm like, "No, you made this bowl of chili before you walked outside. I'm still eating it. Why?" She's like, "Somebody's out there, somebody's out there." This is after the Bigfoot thing. So actually it happened to Brittany twice. That happened to Brittany twice. Because I come out here and I didn't see nothing. I'm like, I don't know, babe. It's weird. Well, the second time it happened, she came running in there and got me, and I went outside with my gun thinking somebody was out here breaking in, stealing stuff. Even though we live out here in the middle of nowhere, that stuff still happens. So I come out here and I tell him, you come around here, I'll shoot you. And I let one ring, man. I had 30-30 and I just put it in that tree right over there. Just boom. And I heard, after the ears quit ringing, I heard somebody or something walk away. Not run, but walk. Speaking of walking, matter of fact, the very first night that Mom and Dad bought this house, I slept on the couch in the living room. The very first night everybody stayed in this house, and I heard the cabinet. There was one cabinet, which I didn't know this at the time, but there was one cabinet that would, when you opened it, would squeak, no matter how fast you opened it. But I was laying there on the couch, I hear ring, and I thought it was the screen door. So I jumped up out of sleep like, the hell, And I'm like, that's weird. So I start to doze back off, and I hear it and shut. And I jump back up, looking around, like, what the hell is that? I didn't know what it was until the next morning. I went in there to get something out of the pantry or put plates in it or something like that. And I opened it up, and I heard it. I'm like, that was a sound. That was it. Like, it did this, like, when it was shut, it'd make this little bounce on. You go, it would kind of like bounce off there. But for you guys that don't know, the way that Dad bought this house was very mysterious. For you guys that don't know, this house it was a weird buy. So these people that lived here left everything. They left everything. You might be thinking, what do you mean, everything? I literally mean everything. Their guns, their cars, their clothes, their food, their dogs, jewelry, everything. And Mom and Dad come over here, and the place was kind of getting run down. And Mom and Dad put a note on the door that they was interested in buying it. Because it's basically in the backyard of the old house, it's behind the old house here. And nothing ever happened. And then one day the bank called Dad and said, hey, you guys are inquiring about a piece of property at such and such address. And it's explained it, it's a foreclosure, and they're going to auction it off on the courthouse square. And Dad bid $1 over what was owed on it. They said, do we have any big, bid, starting bid at $45,000? And Dad said, me. And we was the only people there. And they said, what do you bid? And Dad said $1. $1 over what's owed. Which was like $45,000 at the time. And they had to take it. But when we got the keys to this house and we got in it, there was blood. And the living room and the kitchen's kind of like in the same part of the house, but the kitchen and dining room part of it, there was a line where the linoleum met the carpet. Like, there was carpet in the living room. It was all that real old, nasty, green looking, golf course looking green carpet. Yeah, it was weird. But there was blood on the edge of that. And there was one footprint from that blood going outdoors. So that was kind of like, is this a murder scene? And it never made sense of why these people left it all and let it get foreclosed. When I say cars, guys, they left a freaking Land Rover. This is poor country. Who drives a Land Rover around here? They left that and a brand new Grand Cherokee? A tractor, their four-wheelers, lawnmowers? I mean, we got, you know, cat just about fell. Did you guys see that? But anyway, we got a lot of good stuff. I mean, there was a lot of trash in this house, but yeah, it was weird. As far as those dogs were alive and well a couple days before we went to the auction and bought. Well, actually, they was alive a couple days after we bought the property. After Mom and Dad bought the property, somebody took those poor dogs up there and tied them to a tree and shot them. I don't know why somebody would do that. This was their home, and we would have gladly taken those dogs. They were nice dogs. I mean, Mom would come over here and feed them because nobody else was. Back to the paranormal scary stuff. The most recent thing that happened here for me is me and Brittany were laying in bed sleeping, and we have 5 dogs, but 4 of those dogs are inside dogs. Hank does not like inside. They might think, why do you leave a dog outside? You put that dog inside, he will not leave you alone until you put him outside. He has a nice little cozy house on the back porch. He loves his little house. If it's cold, he's inside. If it's too hot, he's inside. I'll put him in the basement. I won't let that dog suffer. He hates it being inside. But anyway, the other 4 dogs have to be in our bed. I have this much room to sleep in my bed, and it is a big bed. I have Brittany, 2 kids, and 4 dogs, and somehow I have to make room for myself. So earlier that day, or on this day, the kids wanted to go hang out with my mom and dad, Nana and Papa. They went to go to Nana and Papa's, hang out, camp in the motorhome with them, and we had the place to ourselves. And we had these old old dining room table chairs, and I had broke every single one of them with my big butt. We were down to 1 chair. And we've got more chairs now, but we were down to 1 chair. And that day, after we dropped the kids off, me and Brittany said, well, let's do adult stuff, and let's go get a bunch of groceries. And we sat down, or she sat down while I stood, and we made a list of groceries to get. And keep in mind, there was 1 chair. This is important. There was 1 chair, and it was at the kitchen table. There's no kids home. And I throw a fit in the living room when the kids take the recliner and they get in there and they kick out the recliner, and then they get up and leave, and they leave it out reclined. It's hard to re-recline it before you sit down on it, and I make it a point that needs to, if you're done using it, put it up. Me and Brittany did all this adult stuff, and we come home and we watched a movie, and I sat in that chair, and I prefer to not recline in that chair because it's actually really uncomfortable to recline in it. For me, anyway. So, I sat in there, we watched our movie, and then we go to bed. Because my back is so messed up that sometimes it's more comfortable to sit on the floor in front of the couch. And I'm not joking. So, I know I didn't have it reclined. But, anyway, moving on. We're in bed, and I hear my son's bedroom door open, which is about halfway down the hallway. From our room's at the very end. His is about halfway down. I hear his door open. And I jump up, because I'm not asleep yet, and I And I'm thinking, one of them damn dogs is about to go in there and pee. So I start to get out of bed, and I'm like, I count the dogs in the bed. 1, 2, 3, 4. All the dogs are in our room. And I'm like, I'm looking, and his bedroom light turns on. So the crazy part of me is like, somebody's in the house. Somebody has broke in. Did I lock the front door? I'll try to wake Brittany up. She's dead asleep. I'm like, Brittany, wake up. Somebody's in the house. Where's the gun? And she's thinking the gun's in the car. She's half asleep. She starts to get out of bed like she's going out to the car to get the gun, because we're always packing everywhere we go. Just never know what crazy people out there these days. So I'm like, stop. Don't, she's trying to get out of bed. I'm like, where's the gun? There's somebody in the house. She's like, your closet. Our closet's like, it's not really even a closet. It's more like a cubby in the wall. I sneak over there and I grab my gun. I hear footsteps and another door open. I'm like, oh my God. What do? Do I shut this door and lock myself in the room and I call the cops? Or do I defend ourselves right here, right now? And I didn't know if this person was walking towards us. I didn't know if this person was walking towards us or walking away. So I swing around the hallway, and we have that one closet door that if you open it up, it's like shutting the whole hallway off. So I cannot see past that door if it is open, and it's right there at the living room. I look in Emma's room, nobody's in there. I sweep the laundry room, nobody's in there. I sweep Elias's room, nobody's in there. And I start down the hallway, and I'm thinking, as soon as I close this closet door, there's going to be somebody there. And I push the door shut, nobody's there. I look in the closet, nobody's there. I proceed into the kitchen, dining room / living room, and the staircases are right there, go down to the basement. I quickly go through the kitchen, the living room, and I start downstairs. I sweep the basement room. I sweep the garage. The garage door's locked. The front door's locked. The back door's locked. And I'm trying to figure out where this person is, how they get in the house. I did not realize that the recliner was kicked out in recline mode. I seen that, and I immediately went, how'd that get out? And then I look in the kitchen, and every pantry cabinet door is open, wide open. And the one dining room table chair we had somehow got in the kitchen, slid up against the countertop, like my kids would do if they was trying to get it to the top shelf where the snack cakes are. Like they slid it in there and used it as like a step stool to get up in the cabinets. And my kids are not home. And I have no idea how it got in there. And then I realized that this is not a person, this is something else. And I really had it in my head that I was going to have to shoot somebody in my own home. I thought I had it in my head that there was a person in our house. Which, they never got past the dogs. The dogs can hear somebody doing something. When I get down here and go inside, the dogs are gonna lose their mind. One of my nieces back when Mom and Dad owned this, they'd be in this house, and she would look out this front living room window, and she would wave. And my mom would ask her, "Who are you waving at?" She said, "The lady in the front yard, that little nice lady in the white dress, waving." She'd do that a lot. A lot of weird stuff happens here. Like, I think it's kind of weird, and this is my own personal opinion. I mean, it could be coincidence, but very few people have to go through losing their home to a fire or some kind of natural disaster. I mean, it happens to people, but does it happen this often? The first house burns, and then they put trailers on the property, and then a flood washes them away, and then they put another trailers on it, and then that trailer burns. I mean, I just think was just kind of weird to me. And there was one night, me and Brittany I literally just was having this conversation. I thought, that's just kind of weird, don't you think? And she said, "Yeah, I do." And my smoke alarm started going off in this house. And there's no smoke in my house. There was no smoke, but my smoke alarms are going off. It was kind of like something saying, "I did it." It was a weird feeling. I mean, it gives me goosebumps. I mean, a lot of ghostly stuff would happen over at Shelby's house / one when Grandma owned it. Like, every night my grandma used to tell us, Grandma's property was like this weekend warrior campground. Everybody in the family would come down and camp for these holiday weekends. And they, instead of going on vacation places, we would have these great big family reunion sized get-togethers in the backyard. Tents everywhere. And we all sit at this big fire, and we would, this is how I know all these in stories so well, is because we did it multiple times a year. The scary stories would get brought out, and we would all sit around and talk. And I miss it. I do. I really do miss it. And Grandma would tell us that at 11:30, almost every night, this woman would walk from that red shed that's in between the trailers over there. Somehow has outlived everything else that has been on that property. Despite the floods, despite the fires, has outlived everything. But this woman, ghostly apparition, would walk from that about 11:30 every night and walk down to where we have this little spot. We call it the beach. It's where we all swim. We'll walk down there and jump in the water. Like, you could physically hear it jump in the water. Kaploosh. What is it? What is it? What is it? Huh? I don't see nothing on thermal. Anyway, back to my early ghost hunting. Me and my buddy Mitchell and my buddy Caleb they were really big into ghost hunting, which I wasn't at the time. But we would talk about these stories, and I told them that one night. So one night we decided that we was going to go over there by 11:30. And Grandma's the type of person that would shoot you. And in fact, she did shoot somebody over there. But I'll get to that. Or somebody or something, she shot it. But I'll get to that. So I called Grandma and told her, hey, me and my two friends want to come over and look for the ghost that walks and jumps in the river. Please don't shoot us. She said, okay, honey. So Grandma was inside. We pull up. We go in the backyard. And right at 11:30, which we didn't see it. Right at 11:30, somebody jumped in that damn water. I can't say I seen it, but something was in the water. And it was kind of like, yep, okay, we seen enough and we've done. Or we heard enough, we're done. But, yeah, there's one night, Grandma was home alone, after Grandpa died and everybody moved out, and she was home alone, and somebody crawled in. She thinks somebody, because this is how they left. Somebody came in the bathroom window on the back side of the house, and Grandma heard them come in, like make a ruckus. And she had this little. It was a .22 revolver that had a pretty good length barrel on it. It was almost like a walking stick. It was damn near a rifle. But it was Grandpa's .22. It was really sentimental to her, and it was just within hand's reach. So she grabbed it, and she stood in the doorway of her bedroom, and this thing came into view at the end of the hallway, and she let it have all 6 bullets. And it took off running and went out the window the same way it came in. Nobody ever turned up with bullet holes in them. So that's that. Get up here before you get eaten. Come on. Go lay down. Good boy. Good buddy. He's a good boy. Yeah, he's a good boy. Good guard dog. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. He's a good buddy. And, Grandma, she told us a story that she was laying in her bed one night and she was having a hard time sleeping. She was looking down at the foot of her bed. And her grandma had a lot of pillows. I mean, she was almost sitting up. But she said this smoke, like she said it was like somebody was sitting at the foot of her bed on the floor smoking a cigar. She said that she could see the smoke coming up from the foot of the bed, and she said it formed a big old face, and it spoke to her and said, "Get out." And my grandma, there was no spirit or anything running her off of that property. Nobody, no how, anyway, not happening. And she told that thing to go to hell. This is my property. And she said it made a popping sound and went shh, like Genie in the lantern. Just shh, smoke back down where it came from, and she heard a pop sound, and that was it. And she thought, oh my God, I just damned a soul to hell. There was one night everybody was sitting at the fire, at another one of these big family get-togethers, and my aunt was kind of taunting the ghost stories, you know, kind of trying to get everybody freaked out, walking around the fire, oh, come out, you know, doing this weird thing, and the fire went whoof out, just whoof, like just all at once, whole damn gunfire, just poof, done. And that was enough. Everybody done. Okay, whoop, too far, crossed the line. Back to that ghost that would walk down there and jump in the water. A friend of mine, Ethan, back before cameras, we would go out Bigfoot hunting, and we walked down the woods one night. There was 4 or 5 of us. We come back, and he turned and seen that woman standing next to that shed, and it scared him so bad he couldn't hardly tell anybody. There's you know, like in a ghost. He seen it. I mean, we went there expecting to see or hear something, you know, out in the wilderness, not a ghost. I didn't see it, but he did. One of my cousins come down to visit Grandma one night, and it was dark when he got there, and you know, there's a little circle driveway in front of the house, and when he pulled up, his headlights went across that shed, and he thought that he seen Grandma standing out there by the shed in her nightgown, a white nightgown. And he walked over there to see what she was doing, and there was nobody over there, and she went in the house, and Grandma was never outside, so he seen it too. And I had a couple more cousins that actually stayed up one night and actually tried to catch it to see if it was somebody messing around. And they seen it, and they ran over there, and they couldn't catch it. Jumped in the river, the creek, river, whatever you want to call it. It's big enough to be a river, but it's technically labeled as a creek. And we haven't seen it over there for a long time. And then you got the radios that will randomly kick on and play old music. Then you get the shadows. Shelby has seen shadows inside the house, even the new house. Now, I have a video clip of the day that the company put his new trailer in over there. When they put in your mobile home, they leave the doors locked, so you, the person paying for it, cannot go in there until they are done hooking up water, electric, the underpinning, all the, you know, strapping it down. You can't go in the house until they are done. So the doors are locked. And we were barbecuing, and in the video you can see the back door open. It just opened up, and it's locked. Like, somehow something opened the door. Like, there's no steps on the back door. It just, you can see it in the background, and I didn't notice it at first, but anyhow, Grandma would talk. There'd be mornings she would wake up. Grandma was an early bird, and she said that she would watch fog on the creek, and she said it would look like people, but in fog, walking down the creek. Like, it'd be walking down through there. And she would talk about, out of all the things she's seen out there, the fog was the thing that she talked about the most, how weird that fog was. And she talked about these Bigfoot things looking in her window, and she had all these curtains over her window so they couldn't look in the window. One of the creepiest stories that she told was it was a real bad thunderstorm outside one night, and she was sitting in the looking out the front window, not the door window, but the front living room window, and she had this little white picket fence out front, and you can see all the way up the hill. The hill comes down, there's a sharp curve, and she said she was watching, and this lightning. She said the lightning was like you know how that lightning is, real constant. And she said she could see what looked like a person walking down the road in a tuxedo. She thought it was a person in a tuxedo, and she's thinking, who is out walking in a storm like this in a tuxedo? Maybe their cars broke down, maybe they need to use the phone. And she said that person thing got down real close, and she realized it was really, really tall person. It was not a person, it was a Sasquatch. And it was walking down the curve, and it stopped, looked towards the house, seen her looking at it. Like, I notice you, notice me, notice you from over there. And it took one step over her little white picket fence, and she shut them curtains, and she went in there and locked herself in her bedroom. And she could only see it in the lightning, like it'd flash and be a little closer, flash and be a little closer, and flash and be a little closer. There was one day she talked about smelling wet dog really bad, real strong wet dog smell, and her trying to hunt down the source of the smell. She ended up going outside, and it got really strong. And she looked, and this is in broad daylight. This thing was standing there. This thing was standing there looking at her, and never flinched, never moved, was just standing there looking at her. And she walked back in, closed the door. She knew that thing was out there, and it was looking at her. It was so stinky, she could smell it from over there all the way inside of her house. We used to run around there all the time, playing hide and go seek in the dark. I mean, anywhere on that property was fair game. Pitch black. Nothing ever hurt us. If it wanted us, it could have had us a long time ago. But we used to sleep on the porches. Like, she had a big front porch and a big back porch, and we would camp out on those porches, and we would lay out underneath the stars, and we'd sleep on the porch just under the stars. Wouldn't sleep out in the yard, just on the porch. The last time I did that with her, and this is why it was the last time I did it, the back porch went under multiple renovations over the years. Like, well, it used to just be a back porch, and then it had a roof, and then it was screened in, and then it wasn't, and then it was again. That porch went through a lot. And at this point, the last time I camped on the back porch, it was all screened in, and she had a futon out there, and me and Shelby were sleeping in that futon with her, and I remember being closest to the river, the corner of the house. I was closest to the edge, and I remember waking up to something breathing really long and really deep. I mean, like, and it was coming from the opposite side of Grandma and Shelby. And that freaked me out when I was a kid. I was too scared to move. Like, is it a Bigfoot? It's looking at me. And I never did see it, but I wasn't like looking around. I was just like, it's over there somewhere. And it's close enough I can hear it breathing. That was the last time I camped out. The last time Shelby camped out on a porch with her, he said him and my other cousin Rainey were sleeping on the front porch. And he said he got woke up by Grandma. She had holy water and she was blessing the porch. Like she was like trying to cast something away before she made them go inside. And we'll never know why she was doing that, but there was a reason. And she didn't start blessing stuff until she knew there was something bad there. One night, Grandma talked about she started to go somewhere and it was dark, and she had this great big Labrador. He was all black Labrador. He was a great dog. He was big. When we were kids, we used to try to ride him like a horse when he was little. And they started towards the car, and she said that dog got to the bottom of the steps and stopped and started growling, and Grandma stopped thinking, uh-oh. And she said that dog walked up those steps backwards growling, and she just went right back inside. And my grandma was a tough lady. Those same steps, she slipped and fell on them and broke her arm, this bone here, and it needed surgery. She breaks her arm on the way to the grocery store. Yeah, she went to the grocery store still. She breaks her arm, shakes it off, goes grocery shopping, goes home, puts her groceries up, comes over, tells Mom, I slipped and hurt my arm. And Mom's like, oh my God. Took her to the hospital. It was broke. It needed surgery. And she was old enough that they didn't want to operate on her, so they just put her, straightened it up and put her in a cast. She was a tough lady. A couple years she was alive. My Uncle Bob has a camper on the property next to it, and on his side of the property, like you got Shelby's, Uncle Bob's, and then Shelby's again. He's like sandwiched in between them. That's why the little trailer beside Shelby's, that's why it's there, and that's why Fifth Wheel Camper's there. But Grandma come over there to see him, and they talked for a minute, and she went into the backyard, and he was keeping an eye on her because she was pretty elderly at the time. So he was keeping an eye on her, and he seen somebody with her wearing all black, somebody big, walk with her back to the house. And they thought, I didn't know she had somebody with him, so he went over there to see who was with her, and nobody was with her. He went in there and asked her, who was with you? And nobody was with her. I'm pretty sure that's how the story. I probably butchered that up because I think I've only heard that story one time. There was another time Uncle Bob was staying in his camper, and he said he heard a sound, and he thought it was a dog trying to scratch on the door to go out, and you go potty. The dog needed to go out, so he walked out there and let his dog do his thing, and he heard something smack the backside of his camper and then go crashing down through the woods. And he yeeted that dog in the camper, and he went running back in there, shut the door and slammed it. He was going to camp all weekend, but it was the only night he stayed. He didn't stay no more the rest of that weekend. And I remember going over there to check it out, and the campers sit underneath a tree for a long time like that one has. They get like this green slimy stuff on it, and you could see where it looked like somebody had, I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, like you can wipe it right off with your hands, and this looked like somebody hit the very top of it, and they're not there no more. I think I told Miguel that story, and we walked over there so I could show him, and they were no longer there, and I looked like a liar. I'm like, crap, they're not there no more. But I wonder if I can get him to tell that story. I have so much stuff happens. You're like, oh yeah, remember that time? Yeah. Oh, you remember that time? Yeah, I remember that. You know, like there's been stuff that's happened to Brittany and Sabrina over there that they forgot about until we're just like, oh yeah. Like one time I got these jet skis and I was working on them, trying to get them running, and you got to run water through the motors because that's how they cool, so they don't overheat. So while I'm working on them, I want to put them in the water so they got water circulating through them. They're down there, and I get the jet skis in the water, and they're running. I'm like, yeah, while I'm here, I just get them in the water and kind of test them out because I just got them. And I back down there, I had them running, and I hear somebody whistle real loud across the river. And I wasn't the only one that heard it. Like, there was a bunch of us there that heard it. I mean, it was one of the family get-togethers. And I heard the whistle, and everybody's like, who's over there? I'm like, I don't know. Maybe it's the neighbors. We played the jet skis, and their neighbors pull up on their golf cart. And they're over there talking. The neighbors across the river from us, you know, the people that would have been whistling. And they're over there. They're all talking. And this is the second time I put them in there. Like, I put them in the water. I tried them out. I put them back on the trailer. I took them out there, cleaning the carburetors on them, put them back there. They're still there. I back down in the river, try again, and it happened again. It happened the second time. And the same spot is one time I got my shoulder operated on. I had a bicep tendonitis done. I relocated my bicep muscle out of my shoulder here. And I was just getting to the point where I thought that, and I'm off work, and I'm thinking I might be able to cast a fishing pole. And it's fall time. There's no leaves on the tree. And it was early fall, and I drove myself over there with my fishing pole to Shelby's house. And I had my muck boots on, and I just kind of stepped in the water, you know, just enough where the water was over my ankles. And I cast it out, first cast. And the loudest wood knock I've ever heard in my life was right there. In that same spot we heard the whistles. I mean, just, I'm like, yep, I'm here alone, time to go. I load everything up and I leave. And they're the same spot. Brittany and Sabrina were fishing right there. And Brittany or Sabrina, somebody got snagged with an expensive lure, and Brittany waded out there to get it because it's like waist deep. And she said you could hear something moving over there, and something started while she was trying to get the lure out. Something started throwing rocks at her, and like they were hitting the water beside her, and she was like panicking trying to get out of there. That happened there, and we forgot all about that until we were like, oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, right there. Yeah, that's the same spot this happened. I remember that. You know, like stuff like that happened. Stuff like that you just forget. I mean, so much has happened. I can't tell you how many vocalizations I've heard. And what's crazy is almost all of them have all been a little different. They've never been exactly the same. Other than like whoops or that long man howl. I haven't heard that very often, but I have heard it in my lifetime. I've heard it a good handful of times at the old house, which would have been down here on this river, which at the time I had no idea what that was until I watched the TV show Finding Bigfoot. I'm like, holy shit, I've heard that before. That's what that was? Now it's even creepier. And another time we were at, which I got it on video, but you can't hear it. All you can hear is the highway. But we all heard it. Me, Shelby, and Josh were out there, had some conservation. All we had was GoPros, so terrible audio, terrible video. You had to have a freaking gigantic spotlight to see anything with those things. And we're standing there, and we did a couple calls, and a few seconds go by, and it did it twice. Two long Ohio howl, man howl sounds, moan, howl, whatever you want to call it. We heard it 2 times. It did it 2 times. And it came from the direction. And this is before I knew Miguel. I had no idea that he was even in Missouri. But I had no idea Miguel was even from Missouri. But it came from the same direction that he filmed. Later on, he filmed an episode titled "The Mark Twain," one of his early Mark Twain videos, at a guy's house named Bill. We call him Bigfoot Bill. And it was just right down the road from the direction those came from. I'm like, holy crap. Because once I got to talking to Miguel, and he's like, yeah, you're familiar with this road down there? I'm like, yeah, I know exactly where that is. I drive down it all the time. Especially when we're off-roading. But yeah, it was like all this stuff. And then there was like, you guys can look up the Slocum Hollow Legacy. That was all right there. It was basically in the backyard. Like, it just, there's a lot of Bigfoot relationship connections to just puzzle all back together. I'm just rambling, sitting out here by myself. Something over there moving around. Got the dog all worked up. No big deal. Just the average day. Average night. You just gotta watch your 6. This gazebo right here in front of me. The second time Brittany ever seen one, it was standing right there. Again, she was still a smoker, and she come out here to smoke a cigarette, lit a cigarette up, and it wasn't quite dark yet. I mean, the sun was down, but still visible. And she said that she heard shuffle of gravel because there's like sandy grit because all the water and rock run down the asphalt there. And it got her attention, and she seen this thing drop down on all 4 and run towards the river on all 4. And she talked how its shoulder blades were all wonky and just didn't look like a bear. But she immediately ran back inside to get a flashlight. She probably didn't need a flashlight, she needed a camera. I wish she'd have just watched it to see where it went. I was actually in the basement getting a bunch of, because we were still in the lawnmower race and stuff pretty big then. That was actually the 3rd time she seen it. The 2nd time she seen it was on C Highway in Fredericktown, right there by Pinecrest. Me and Josh, he lives on C Highway. We was working on something. I can't remember what we was working on. But he had to pick his wife up from work because they were down a car and we were working on it, but I don't remember what we was working on. And so Brittany ran to town to pick her up and bring her home while we was trying to get this thing wrapped up back on the road. And when they were coming down C Highway, she said there was a truck that had really, really bright LED light bars on and they couldn't see. She said it was so bright she pretty much come to a dead stop in the road because she could not see, and this truck was coming real slow. And Brittany just kind of looked off to her left, and she sees this thing standing there, and she watches it spin around. She watched its arms, and it spun around and walked in the woods. And this truck drove by real slow. As soon as it got beside her, it takes off. So this truck that had these light bars on seen this thing standing on the side of the road, and Brittany didn't see it until she come to a dead stop and was like, "Dadgum," and was like, "Oh my God," and seen it. And she come flying in the driveway. It's right there. I just seen it. It's right there. Carrie never seen it. Carrie never seen this thing. She was sitting right next to her and never even looked over and seen it. But she's like, it's right up there. I'm like, where? Tell me where. Me and Josh can run up there. And we had this old Amazon night vision camera, and we hop in our Explorer, which had all these light bars on it as well, and we run up the road. And then I was trying to get her to explain. She's like, there's a blue reflector sign right there. And we go up the road, and we're looking for this blue reflector, and we can't find it. Like, we went all the way up to almost the highway looking for this blue reflector sign. We never seen the blue reflector. And we go back, and me and Josh finish what we're doing. Brittany's describing all to us, and when me and Brittany leave, she shows me where this blue reflector is, and it was right there. I mean, I don't know, eighth of a mile, quarter mile from where me and Josh are standing outside working on his car. That was right there behind us the whole time. And the blue reflector is gone. Oh, that was kind of weird. But I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Giveaway winner for the last episode. Be right about here. Congratulations. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, guys. You want to win a night vision binocular. See you in the next episode.